And from me, Tom Ferry, a warm welcome to Johnson Hall at the University of Aberdeen for our disco party. We put the first record on. You could tell that this is going to be a good night.
There was a buzz about the place when you arrived because you were going to make the night.
You could be a Bee Gee, you could be John Travolta, you could be One of Hot Gossip, you could go in any direction you wanted.
We really had sort of made a big noise in the press. It was all Scotland is known for is Hi-NRG and haggis.
Nothing happened in Brechin. Brechin was just like this wee town with a football team and a round tower, and next thing you know, the best nightclub in the country's there.
Ultra-Tech had laser lights put in. The queues outside was incredible.
It was just a wonderful time. The fashion, the music, everything was changing. And there was a freedom in dancing they'd never had before.
You would have a wee group of girls dancing with a wee bundle of handbags in a wee circle.
That's right. Split. Let that split.
Arms in the air.
And let down into the split.
You'll never get me up again.
Ah, for the days when we were hot stuff rather than hot flush. Yes, sir, we could boogie, and we did it to a soundtrack that stood the test of time. I'm Jackie Bird, and if, like me, the 1970s and 80s were your golden years, then you were part of a surge in Scotland's nightlife when what seemed like an entire generation went up the dancing.
Freak out! You freak, say she. Freak out!
So what was the allure of this era when disc jockeys were king and the very mention of a laser show filled us with glee? The disco explosion belonged to the last of the baby boomers. Across the country it spawned hundreds of venues, and not just in the big towns and cities. From Cleopatra's in Glasgow, Jackie O's in Kirkcaldy to Flicks in Brechin, where they arrived by the busload. So if your toes are already tapping, slide off those slippers, relinquish the easy readers and come with me for a boogie down memory lane.
Surely can be done. Young and old are doing it, I'm told. Just one try and you too will be sold. It's called a freak. They're doing it night and day. Allow us, we'll show you the way. Oh, freak out. You freak, say she. Freak out.
Before disco music came from America looking for a home, Scotland's many ballrooms had been forced to evolve and embrace new moves and new music. Eddie Tobin was a club manager for many years and is the author of the book, Are You Dancing?
I dig rock and roll music. I can do the twang and the jerk.
They were using predominantly town halls. You know, you had Cumnock Town Hall, Hoyt Town Hall, Wick Town Hall. The councils or astute entrepreneurs were opening dancing, putting on groups and drawing crowds. We did Eyemouth, West Calder. I mean, little towns were having them, and the cities were having fabulous groups, and the groups drew the people.
Tom Ferry started his DJ career in the late 60s.
People want to dance. And when we were doing clubs in those late 60s, I was playing a lot of the Motown stuff, the Temptations, the Four Tops, Stevie Wonder, along with maybe the Rolling Stones or something like that. People just danced.
Eddie Tobin recalls the lure of this new style of dancing.
Firstly, you could dance any way you liked. No one laughed or said you can't do the cha-cha. There was no cha-cha. You just go up If you're drunk, you just staggered about the place, but no one laughed at you, so you could dance, anyone could dance. And any girl would get up to dance because they didn't really have to hold the guy. So standing in front of someone dancing was a pleasure. You know, they enjoyed the dance without having to worry about their partner being good, bad or indifferent. Wonderful fun. And it was all over Scotland.
Keep on dancing, keep on doing the jump. Shake it, baby. Come on and show me how you work.
The new partnership in the dance halls was between the DJ and the guest live bands. Before Roller Mania, Alan Longmuir and Stuart Woody Wood played the circuit in the 70s.
It was a revolving stage where the maker circuit, as we called it, would be at the back. There'd be a partition and the DJ, you'd hear the DJ say, and sometimes while he's playing the song, the band would start playing the same song, the stage would turn round, the DJ would fade his out and the band would take over and they would be the live band playing the same song. But it was just a nice transition that used to happen.
We had a hit in 1971 called Keep On Dancing, and it had a false ending and it actually went up a key, and the DJ was in a wee box and he thought it was the end of the show, so he started turning the revolving stage and the mics were falling over and they turned it back again. It was me.
We're not finished yet,
that's right,
chorus.
that was right.
Keep on dancing and a prancing. Keep on dancing and a prancing. Keep on dancing and a prancing.
I mean, the disco kind of actually spoiled it for the live bands because it's got more popular. And of course we were losing work through the disco situation, but even the promoters just wanted to pay the one DJ and didn't have to pay us, you know. I mean, the early days were great though, you know.
The Bay City Rollers played well into the club scene, but according to promoter David Meehan...
So it was different.
David Meehan, who had a DJ agency, also saw the economic argument for change. Not only was just one person taking the paycheck and spinning the discs, there was another advantage.
If you put a band in somewhere, you're paying 5-6 members, you're paying a whole crew. Even at that time, it wasn't extortionate, you're talking £50-60. You put a DJ in there, it's £15-20. So the mobile disco scene at that time did explode. There were hundreds all over the place, and they took them anywhere. If you basically had two light boxes with a red, a yellow and a blue light that flashed, a set of decks and a few records, you were a mobile disco. So you could go anywhere with that.
A young Sheridan Nichol, now a respected dance instructor, was also there to witness the transition.
Everywhere the ballrooms turned into clubs. There was the Locarno became Tiffany's. One of the best examples being the old Trocadero became the Double J, became the big club in Hamilton. It happened in the Shire area as well.
I remember the name because that's the Troc was where my mum and dad met back in the formal days when a woman had to sit on the side and wait until a man would come and ask her and you danced as a couple.
Yep.
And then it evolved and got a new lease of life in the disco era.
And as the beat went on, the clubs multiplied.
The Warehouse, Panama Jacks,
The Electric Garden,
Buster Brown's, the International Club,
Tiffany's,
I remember that.
you had the White Elephant.
Barney Rubble's one of the busiest clubs that ever was in Aberdeen.
Ultra-Tech, Maestro's,
Joanna's on a Monday night in Bath Street.
The Bobby Jones, anyone from Aero remember that?
Did I mention Shuffles?
That was a good one.
Cotton Club.
Dundee had the Pally, the GM Ballroom, the Barracuda. Dundee was wonderful.
It was all, as they say, smoke and mirrors, and according to Eddie Tobin, for good reason.
A mirror ball, which was the classic one, wasn't it? Every dance hall had the mirror ball. And what a slow song. Put the mirror ball on. Well, you change mood lighting. It was just changing and improving as time went on. And you were trying to beat your competitor. It was 3rd Division to Premier Division overnight.
These new sophisticated clubs left lasting impressions on David Meehan and disco-goer Diane Dawson.
I remember the first time that a club in Glasgow, I think it was Ultra-Tech, had laser lights put in. The queues outside to see the laser lights was incredible.
They always had diagonal striped carpets and chrome banisters and plinth that you could lean on and mirrors that you could look in and all the rest of it, but it was all about that dance floor. There's a place that used to have a lit up dance floor which was very, very Saturday Night Fever, and that was more, it was in Galston of all places, near Kilmarnock, and the floor lit the way you've seen in films. Now that was extraordinary, but they were all pastiche, or maybe they weren't pastiche, maybe they were just doing their best to be these New York discos that we all looked to on the big screen.
If disco dancing was riding high, then one event sent it into the stratosphere. Eddie Tobin again.
The key to the explosion, and there was an explosion, is John Travolta. Saturday Night Fever blew away everything that had gone before. If you watch that, it has everything. That nightclub is glitzy, flashing lights, fabulous lights, a dance floor, and guys that can show their stuff. Saturday Night Fever was as big a boom as Chubby Checker had with a twist. Everybody thought they could do it, so people would go on and gyrate their best. Chubby Checker was an enormous boon to dancing. Saturday Night Fever was the last really, really big one. Almost overnight, queues outside nightclubs.
When Saturday Night Fever came along, you obviously got people dancing, as in John Travolta, or trying to.
The finger point.
The finger point, all of that kind of stuff. And it was, do you know, actually it wasn't funny at the time because everyone was doing it, and you know it was accepted. It wasn't like, oh, look at that idiot pointing his finger trying to be John Travolta. A lot of people were doing it, so it was just enjoyable. It wasn't naive, but it was just fun.
David Meehan's sentiments are echoed by DJs Jim Simon and Tom Ferry.
Just exploded then, didn't it, with the Ultra-Volta thing. And that's, of course, that whole Studio 54 thing. And people wanted to emulate and they wanted to get that sense of excitement that they saw on the big screen. And that's why these clubs, I think, were getting busier and busier, and a name synonymous with entertainment and stakes over the years. The great Rio Stakis. Rio Stakis really saw an opening for discotheques. He had a lot.
Were they all over Scotland?
All over Scotland,
Yeah,
yes.
and he realised there was a great market there. Rio Stakis disc jockeys had to be extraordinarily professional. Discos were so popular for a while, Rio Stakis introduced lunchtime discos for the office staff in the city in 1980, and it lasted for about a year. Or a year and a half. People were coming down, like in the way that you would go to, one of your high street stores for a sandwich and an orange juice. They would come down there and they would put on a cheap lunch, and you would be disco dancing in your lunch hour.
Dance teacher Sheridan Nicholl remembers the fever effect on the dance floor.
All of a sudden when Saturday Night Fever came in, it brought individuals onto the dance floor, which really hadn't happened before. Before that, it was the twist and the shake, and you still got up with your partner or your friend and participated in that way. But with the freedom of freestyle dancing, you could get up, you could be anybody you wanted, you could be a Bee Gee, you could be John Travolta, you could be Arlene Phillips, One of Hot Gossip. You could go in any direction you wanted and just get on the floor and have a ball on your own.
Do you think the disco era was particularly liberating for women?
Well, yeah, they could get up and strut their stuff alone. I think it changed that whole...
The dynamic changed.
Yeah, the girls were not waiting for the men to talk to them. They could go on and be themselves and then go and talk to anybody they wanted.
About you, but when I was a disco goer back in the day, it was more murder on the dance floor than any moves to lure Mr. Travolta. Previous generations may have been taught dance basics, but in freestyle disco, you were on your own. If you've ever wondered about the origins of dad dancing and mum dancing too, then look no further. Time for a refresher course from Sheridan at her Jazz Art Dance Studio in Motherwell.
Right. Are you ready, Jackie?
I'm ready.
Right,
I'm ready.
feet apart
Okay.
and in parallel, straight to the skis on, and take your right hand up to the right, and take your right hand down to the left, and point it up to the right, and down to the left, and double the speed, and 5, 6, 5, 6, go, and up, down,
Hey.
up, down. Now play the drums with your fingers to the right.
Oh, so
and
that's
left.
what it was,
Yeah.
playing the drums.
Well, that's what I said. I'm sure there's another explanation somewhere.
All right. Okay.
Repeat it all again. Go, and up, down, up, down, up. Play
down,
the drums now.
down. Play the drum.
Playing the drums. Playing the
drum.
drums. Playing. Split.
Splaying.
That's it.
What was that splaying?
Just go split. Let that split.
Arms in the air.
And down into the splits.
You'll never get me up again.
Will
Right.
we do that?
Okay.
From the beginning.
All right.
5, 6, 7, go! Up and down, up and down, up and down to the right with the drums. And into the splits. Yay! Well done.
Glad it's radio. Oh, right, help me up now. You judged disco dance competitions?
Yes, I have. I've judged a few in my time. Finals at Butlins. I remember being at one particular competition in the plaza where I judged the freestyle section, and there were 150 entries in one age group, split into 3.
And this was freestyle?
This was all freestyle, and there were judges all over the room.
So how would you describe freestyle to the uninitiated?
It's a mixture on those days between a very strong Watusi, acrobatics.
I'm sorry, I don't think we're allowed to say Watusi at this time, at this time of day. What's a Watusi?
I wouldn't do the Watusi.
What's that?
Shaking your backside. And,
Shake your booty, I think they call it now.
What's it called?
Twerking.
Twerking, yeah. Early twerks.
You see, the kids listening to this think they invented twerking.
Yeah.
But we were doing it. Well, you were doing it.
Well, yes, it has been known. They would say there were 50 at a time and 4 or 5 judges, and you had to pick 3 of those 50 or 5 to get through to the next level. So there were 20 went through to the finals. Obviously, your eyes zoomed in. It was full attraction. It was commercial dance probably at its best. And when you think what happened in television dance went that way. You think of the second generation, Lud Romano in the Seaside Specials, Arlene Phillips in Hot Gossip. There was Flick Colby's segment, which was different from Pan's People. There was a whole new era of television dancing came from that. Brian Rogers, the New Edition. I mean, there were, everywhere you went, there was commercial, high-energy dance on the television and the variety bills at that time.
With disco fever burning up Scotland's dance halls, TV decided to mix competition and disco dance for a mainstream audience.
Hi there, it's Tim here and welcome once again to the best disco in town. Tonight we're open for one reason only, and that is to bring you the 1980 EMI Disco Dance Championship Finals here in Scotland, alright? Later on tonight we'll have some live music from our special guests, who are a bit fabby-doo actually. They are the Nick Straker Band. But right now here is your first glimpse, and you're only getting a wee glimpse of our 9 amazing finalists. Are you ready? Because here they are!
In Glasgow, there was the best disco in town, which was the biggest TV disco show in Britain, and it all happened in Glasgow.
That was a competition that was a knockout competition, so it was a series. The final of the series was televised, and I was a judge on the best disco in town, and Tiger Tim was, of course, the host on the event.
It was quite unique in its way. People knew they were on telly. You get the guys at the front, or the people at the front who are really good dancers. You get the ones at the middle that are okay. The ones at the back that are not very good.
People would have really bad clothing on. It was just, awful. Lots of satin, lots of silk, lots of makeup, and they would have one song that they had their own routine. They developed their own routine. And it was the person who was more unique and more athletic, people who had a professional background in dancing. They started to realise that there was an opportunity here to win some money, to win a trophy. In some ways, when I think back, that probably sort of spoiled it in the long run, because if somebody came on the dance floor and then they wanted to show off their expertise and their prowess, everybody moved back to the side.
The heat was
This is James McLeod, this is our winner tonight. Now, can I just tell you that the music is going on and on and on here at the Best Disco in Town tonight. We're going to celebrate it with this young man, and you can see him on his way to the UK finals in October. How are you feeling, James? Great. Yeah? Did you enjoy that way you were boogieing around? Quick boogie for us now. How about that? This young man is going to be a star, and this is the guy we're going to leave you with tonight. Let's hear it for our finalist, James McLeod!
The disco deluge in clubs, on TV and in the movies spawned new stars. The first celebrity DJs took to the turntables. Here are Eddie Tobin and David Meehan.
We really worked hard to get DJs that were fabulous. We had Gorgeous Gary, Tiger Tim. Every DJ had a name, right? So we could advertise them as that. And the DJs couldn't just play the records, they had to perform.
You would often get girls pretending to faint on stage or at the back of the stage so that they would hopefully get carried out and round the back so that they could suddenly come to life and meet the DJ. It was absolutely stupid. It was crazy.
Tiger Tim used to have security
He
guards.
did. The two of them went with him everywhere. And we always had to take him in the back door. You could never take him through the front door. Always in the back door.
For the DJs, these were the golden years. Here are the recollections of DJs Tiger Tim and Jim Simon.
You go to a club, Hamilton Palace, I remember. You only did an hour. And then you get in the car, go to another club, Henry Africa's, do another hour. Go to another club, do another hour. If you said dance, people danced.
When the disc jockey walked into the room, people would say, he's arrived, or maybe she's arrived. So I'm not denying the fact that, we had a little bit of power in that respect. There was a buzz about the place when you arrived, because then you knew that you were going to make the night.
Actually, I never thought about it being like that. I always thought that it would be a good feeling knowing that you're making people enjoy themselves.
Tim's a great example of someone who was outstanding as a performer of that era because he was mad. And he hasn't changed a bit, I have to say.
In the nicest possible way.
In all these years, he hasn't changed a bit.
Hi there, and a big welcome from Valentino's here in Paisley! All right! Now, for all you Sassenachs out there who may not realise where Paisley is, well, it's in Scotland. In fact, Glasgow is just over there. Or is it over there? I can't quite remember. Anyway, later on tonight, very soon, we'll have Linda and John with us. My name's Tiger Tim, and it's my job to keep this shower on their dancing toes because, after all, this is the Roadshow Disco!
Despite living with multiple sclerosis for nearly 30 years, the Tiger has lost none of the wicked humour that characterised his career. He recalls that back then, not everyone at a gig was a fan.
Henry Africa's in the city centre. I always remember a guy come up and said, "Hey Tiger." I said, "What?" He said, "Play a song for me." I said, "Yeah, I'll play it after." "No, you play it just now." I said to the people, "Where's that guy?" His name was Psycho. I always remember that guy.
So you played it?
No, I tried to stand my ground. I waited for 2 records and then played it.
You played it.
Yeah.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
But it wasn't just the big city discos that had the glitz and glamour.
We didn't go to too many clubs initially. We went to town halls, sports centres. It created a good atmosphere because people wanted to get up and dance. They wanted to enjoy themselves. That's what made the atmosphere. That time, it was very straightforward. You went to the Clyde Disco Roadshow, you got up and danced, they played the right music all night long. Very seldom was the dance floor empty. That's how it worked for us.
I remember going to the Fourth Inn in Aberfoyle, which was phenomenal for many years. The Pearl Inn in Balfron. Again, people wanted to travel outside of the cities.
I had a lot of experience with Radio Scotland doing just that because all of a sudden we were able to take the disco all over the country.
So where did you go?
And I have wonderful memories of Fort William, Loch Gilphead, Stornoway, the Isle of Skye, but my favourite of all, I think I went back 4 times, Isla. I just loved Isla.
Great crowds.
Bowmore.
Loved the music.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it was a case of bringing a big radio show to the Highlands and Islands, and it was fantastic.
So it was the mobility of
the setup, the
Yes.
disco setup, that played a part in the success? It must have done.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, but you were taking the product to them, which, they would have been... Otherwise, they wouldn't have had that great experience of whatever they were hearing about from the cities. And that was the great thing that you're right, the mobility of the gear, which was pretty, huge in those days. When you look at disc jockeys nowadays, you watch them walking into a place with a laptop. But I mean, we had these Schweppes record boxes. I remember. Well, we used to take the Schweppes box that you would have the little bottles in and cut out the middle, and that was the exact size for a 7-inch single. And then you could get big crates similarly for all your LPs. I mean, it used to take you, an hour and a half to get in and get set up for a disco. Now a guy comes in and he's straight in there with a USB connection, and off he jolly well goes.
You're listening to me, Jackie Bird, with Up the Dancing on BBC Radio Scotland. What was the entry policy? Was it alcohol? Was it whatever?
Depended how busy you were. I used to say to my managers, I said, if someone comes up very drunk, there's 3 steps in front of one of our clubs. I said, if you're very quiet, I want someone to go out and help him in.
And if not?
And if not, refuse him. I had a pal in the Orkneys in Kirkwall, and I says, what is your policy with drunks? And he said, they're not allowed in if there's nobody there to carry them. Isn't that lovely?
Mister, your eyes are full of hesitation. She makes me wonder if you know what you're looking for. Baby, I wanna keep my reputation. I'm a sensation. You try me once, you'll beg for more.
Disco goer Diane Dawson.
Oh, if I didn't get in. There was one night, my boyfriend was 3 years older than me, and a big crowd of us got a minibus up from Irvine to a night out in Glasgow, and we went to, the first bar I went to in Sakhill Street was called Centre Court. It's like a tennis court place, and I didn't get in there. Then I did get in because they talked the guy to let me in, and I was a bit nervous, broke the heel of my shoe. Anyway, the whole purpose of the night was to go to a club called Saints and Sinners. Yep, that's right, King Tut's. I didn't get in then. I didn't get in the whole night. My pals had drove up from Irvine and didn't get into this club. So yes, there was issues. I suppose the city was a different vibe. In the provincial towns of Ayrshire, let her in, good for business. She's all dressed up, let her in.
If disco empowered women, at least to get up and dance on their own, it also provided space for the growing gay culture of the time. Bill Grainger founded the famous Edinburgh gay disco, Fire Island.
I was a control freak. Everything had to be done my way. And I would like to say at this point that I think that's why it was so successful.
Searching and seeking, never sleeping. I've got to find me a man. No disguises, just surprises. Someone who I'll understand. I don't need a guy who'll spend only one night, then tell me he's got no more time. I'm looking for someone to share my life. I better move on down the line. Searching, looking
in 1978 on a Monday night, there were about 135 people there, which was more than we expected, to be honest. But there was a great buzz going around Edinburgh. The club was known as the International Club and also the West End Club. And it was a real sort of troublemaker type place. I mean, the first time that I actually went in there, the first thing that I noticed was all the blood on the stairs. It was a real sort of hellhole. As a result of lots of trouble in the club on the weekends, the police took the licence away from the venue. The police then contacted the owner, the licensee of the West End Club, and said, look, you'll never get your licence back for a straight disco. But if you let Fire Island have it, then you will get your licence back. Now, I mean, when I heard that, I was absolutely gobsmacked because, at that time, it had just about become legal and we didn't think too much about it. We just thought, let's go for it.
And then at the end of November, we have the return visit of Hazell Dean. And that will be followed in December by 7th Avenue, and at our Hogmanay party, we have Kelly Marie.
My head is in a spin, my feet don't touch the ground. Because you're near to me, my head goes round and round. Mine is a shaking, baby. My heart, it beats like a drum. It feels like I'm in love. Ain't been this way before, but I know I'm turned on. This time it's something, baby, I can't turn on. Mine is a shaking, baby. My heart, it beats like a drum.
The success of Scotland's own disco diva, Paisley's Kelly Marie, was in no small part due to the efforts of Bill Grainger and his Fire Island DJs.
Every week I would decide what was going to be the record of the week. I would tell the DJ he had to play it 5 times every night. And 5 times every night? 5 times every night. Kelly Marie's Feel Like I'm in Love, for example. We were playing that for, I think, about 6-9 months before it hit the national charts. It was sort of one of those tracks that was just bubbling around, and eventually it hit the national charts and became number 1. The DJs had to monitor the dance floor, and in fact, this may sound stupid, but when the DJ played a record, he had to mark it down on a sheet of paper and put a rating of 1 to 10 on how many people attracted to the dance floor. And I would analyse that sheet at the end of the night, and any records that were sort of failing to get 5 or above were deleted from the playlist. Our entire playlist was music that wasn't getting played in any other club. Therefore, DJs from all the other clubs around, they all started congregating at Fire Island on a Sunday night. And eventually, because of the demand, we then started selling these Hi-NRG records to the clubs, and that's how Hi-NRG music became very, very popular in Scotland. Many, many people that found partners there have now got married, send me a wee note to say, listen, thanks to you and Fire Island, we've now been together 30, 40 years. I just take great pride in that, we done something which, benefited the gay scene in Scotland. Fire Island was legendary. Everything was so right about it. It's such a pity it ended.
competition between nightclubs across Scotland was intense. Here's Eddie Tobin.
If the management weren't switched on, they were gone. Like you would, there was so many entrepreneurs out there. If you weren't with it, you were gone. And a lot of them weren't with it.
One venue where management knew the value of innovation was Flicks in Brechin. Admittedly not the most likely of locations for a hit nightclub, but each weekend this farming town drew thousands of revellers from across the UK.
My name's Stuart Aikenhead. I was one of the founding partners of Flicks nightclub, along with Michael Swolinski. And the opportunity to buy the cinema in Brechin came along, and we decided that, we would convert the cinema into a nightclub, and born was Flicks. Became very popular very quickly, both with the local market and with the travelling market, which was very unusual for people from the larger populations, the likes of Arbroath, Dundee, Aberdeen, as far south as Edinburgh, Perth, and even Newcastle became a very common fixture on the circuit.
Graham Strachan and Ian Fraser worked at Flicks.
And the guys made an amazing job. The laser show was unique in Britain, I think. It was just this thing you'd never seen before. They were making tunnels out of lasers and filling them with smoke, and you're looking at this thing like it was somebody at Star Wars. It was just unbelievable. It's really, really cool.
Back in those days, that particular laser was quite powerful. You could easily burn through a beer mat if you just held it up, which we did quite often just to test it out. Just pulled so many people from all over Scotland to come and see this, and the lasers went to the music, and they were fired off of, I think, 130 mirrors that were around the nightclub. So when you shot the laser in one direction, it would come back in another, and it would go all the way around the nightclub. It wouldn't just be on the dance floor area, because it was maybe a foot or two above the head. The mirrors were all around the dance floor. I remember hearing stories of when the nightclub first opened, there were searchlights on the roof, and there was lasers firing up into the sky, and I would have loved to have been there on the first night. I really would have.
Nothing happened in Brechin. Brechin was just like this wee town with a football team and a round tower, and next thing you know, the best nightclub in the country's there.
I'm Jim Buss, and I was one of the head doormen at Flicks nightclub. One group in particular who were absolute gents, and that was village people. I thought they were proper professionals, really good. And of course there was Samantha Fox and Linda Lasardi, and which was very nice as well. And I'll also add Steve Wright came quite a few times, and he was brilliant. And then of course we had the Hitman and Her, which went on TV, and that was brilliant as well.
This is Flicks nightclub, this is Brechin, and this is Scotland!
Here's Stuart Aikenhead.
We struck up a very, very strong relationship with Pete Waterman and the rest of the PWL team. The Hitman and Her came as a suggestion when we met with Pete down in London, and he couldn't wait to come up. We did the first of 2 shows, and again the Hitman team just loved what they did up here and the atmosphere that they got and the welcome that they got. So we then did a further 2 in the summer of the following year. Excellent nights, everybody raved about them. Still today on the Facebook page, people want the videos to be shown to see themselves. We went home from here to watch it being broadcast live, although it was recorded. Great feeling of success for our town. great feeling of achievement for the people of Brechin to see themselves on TV, and a sense of purpose to what we did. It all came together with a live television broadcast from a small town like Brechin. Many relationships, probably quite a few marriages. How many are still together today, it's hard to tell, but I would say that there's probably quite a few next generations being conceived in, around, or in part due to the success of Flicks.
Flicks' innovation meant its lifespan was longer than most, but eventually changing trends called time on the disco explosion. Here's Eddie Tobin again.
If you weren't on the case, you were gone. It's an industry, overnight, you can be wiped out. You know, you can have a crowd one week. If another operator opens a good operation, you're gone. So you really have to stay awake in that business.
I never can say goodbye.
So the Meccas of the world, huge company or the dancing company, with the Locarnos, they lost their way and lost all of their halls. If I had to have a dinner table with the guys that are still in the industry, it would be a very lonely dinner table.
The bricks and mortar of Flicks may have crumbled, but gone doesn't mean forgotten. So strong is the disco legacy, Flicks revival nights are packing them in. Another time, another place, but just as popular. Graham Strachan.
Everybody remembered Flicks. The first year's Flicks revival, we didn't have any special guests, anything like that. Well, Bill Butcher was a special guest. He was one of the first DJs at Flicks. He played, we didn't do anything fancy. We did a reenactment of the laser show, and it sold out in about 2 days, which was unbelievable. And the demand for it when we had done that show was unbelievable. They wanted us to do another one the second month, third month. They wanted us another one at Christmas, but we decided that we would leave it for another year and this time bring in an act. We had Sonia last year and she'd actually played in Flicks as well. People want it and people thrive for the sort of Flicks experience again. It's just such a great feeling seeing everybody coming back and giving you the feedback, saying, you know, they remember this, they remember that about the place, and so many unfamiliar faces, especially people not from Brechin, that you've not got a clue who they are, but they're coming up to you thanking you for a great night and everything else, and it's just a brilliant feeling. And to not do it anymore would be absolute madness. You know, it's something we need to keep going and give back to the town.
The Flicks revival nights are part of a flourishing industry for disco nostalgia that allows those of us of a certain age to go to a club and strut our funky stuff without howls of derision from our offspring. And more than that, whatever age they say we are, on the dance floor with the right music, we're back in our prime. Diane Dawson missed her disco days so much, she set up the wonderfully named Hip Replacement Club.
It was my pal Angie and I that just started it. We sat in a pub all morose one night wondering, what can we do if we want to go for a wee dance? There's nowhere to go anymore, so we thought the only thing to do is to start our own club. So we came up with the concept of just having a place where you can just go and dance. That's all you do, you're there for the dancing. And what would we call it? Well, it's about being hip, but it's not being hip, we're not hip anymore.
If you had a hip replacement and you told us about it, you could get in for free. So someone tonight just took advantage of that, and so yeah, we gave them their money back.
The people who come to dance are the people who used to dance disco. No question about it. Everyone knows their favourite song, everyone knows their favourite genre. That's what they come here for. It's like a memory muscle, no question about it. It's a bit of nostalgia, but not as much nostalgia about now. It's about reclaiming themselves, about saying I'm still here, I love it. It's just about boogieing on down. What I say is that if all you get to do is dance around the kitchen, this is your big kitchen, and you're there with your pals.
And this is to all you 16 and 17-year-olds that we are actually made of stronger stuff. We would leave the disco at 4, go home, not sleep, shower, change, and be at work at 9 o'clock.
I know you'd be standing there if you weren't doing a mini with somebody and you were like a wee wallflower. That's when I should have gone to the ugly club.
And Charlie Nicholas used to come in. Charlie, if you're there, I loved your gold chain that went right down to your trouser belt. And that was a 70s thing.
Cider Baby Sham and Marichina Cherries.
The music's brilliant. You go up for one dance, and 8 dances later, you're still like that. I can't sit down, and you're sweating, and you come in, and your hair's quite straight and cool, and you go out, and you look like Noddy Holder.
They say if you can't remember the 60s, you weren't there. If you can remember the disco boom, then you can probably recall every sweaty, strobe-lit, sticky-floored moment of it. Go on, dance yourself dizzy.
First I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I learned how to get along. And so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me.
Oh, now go. Walk out the door. Just turn around now. 'Cause you're not welcome anymore.
But you're the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye. You think I'd crumble? You think I'd lay down and die? Oh no, not I. I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll be alive. I've got all my life to live. I've got all my love to give. And I'll survive. I will survive. Hey, hey.
Up the Dancing with me, Jackie Bird, was produced by Paul Bridges and Nick Lowe at Demas Productions for BBC Radio Scotland.